this video I want to talk about accentuation. Accentuation is a system of rhythmic impulses and patterns that create poetry in music. The 19th century system of accentuation was really a follow-through from the 18th century system. And I have a quote here from Kirnberger, who was a student of Johann Sebastian Bach. And he writes that meter actually consists in the uniformity of accents placed on certain notes and in the perfectly regular distribution of long and short syllables. If these heavy and light accents recur regularly, the melody receives its meter or rhythmic pattern. If these accents were not distributed regularly and without any precise and periodic recurrence, the melody would be similar to ordinary speech. But by this periodic recurrence, it resembles poetry, which also has its meter. This kind of accentuation can not only apply to 19th century music and 18th century music, but also 20th century music. Today I want to look at the basic accentuation patterns of the common meters 2/4, 4/4, 3/4, and the compound meters 6/8, 9/8, 12/8. And then I want to apply these to some examples by saw. So the first thing we're going to do is play the accentuation patterns on an open string in each meter. I'm going to start in 2/4 meter. I'm going to do crotchets or quarter notes, quavers, and then semiquavers. I've indicated on the chart a dash for an accent and a sort of upside down U or an arch for a release. And they're the indications that were used by 19th century theorists. The more dashes there are, the more accent there is on that note. I'm going to use the thumb to pluck the dashed notes because that gives me more natural weight on those notes. And then I'm going to use my fingers, either my index or middle, to pluck the unaccented notes. So here is the 2/4 meter. I'm going to start with crotchets and then move to quavers and then to semiquavers. Now I'm going to play 4/4 meter. I'm going to start with minims and then move progressively to crotchets, quavers, and then semiquavers. Now 3/4 meter, I'm going to start with crotchets and then quavers and semiquavers will follow. Just one slight difference here, I'm going to use my thumb for the downbeat, my middle finger for the second beat, and my index finger for the third beat. So we get this really clear 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to move to 6/8 meter. So we're going to go to compound time. Compound being when the beat is divided into 3 parts. So I'm going to start with the dotted crotchets, and then I'm going to play 1/8 notes. And because I'm playing 3 1/8 notes in each beat, I'm going to do my thumb, middle, and index again, just like in 3/4, but it's going to be a little faster. And now 9/8, which is compound triple time. So I'm going to play 3 dotted crotchets, and then I'm going to play 1/8 notes, and then 16th notes. And finally, 12/8 compound quadruple time. So I thoroughly recommend practicing this every day. It's a very valuable exercise, technically and musically, and it can apply to so much music. 19th century, 18th century, Bach, Saw, Tedesco, Villa-Lobos. So I really encourage you to practice this, and you can find the chart in the link. So I want to start by applying some accentuation patterns to some examples from Saw's etudes. I'm going to start with etude number 1 from Opus 6, or Segovia edition etude 4. So this is a typical modern accentuation, which would basically put an accent on the first beat, and then everything else would be pretty much equally emphasized. So if we apply the accentuation pattern from the example I was doing earlier, 1/8 notes in 4/4 time, we would be alternating strong and weak beats a lot more, and it would sound something like this. Saw's number 8, Opus 6, Etude 1. I discussed this briefly in a previous video, but I'll do this again just in case you missed it. So this one is in 3/4 time, and again, a modern accentuation would emphasize the first beat a little bit, and then the following beats would be pretty much the same. It would sound something like this. However, if we apply the accentuation pattern of 3/4, where you have a strong first beat and then the following 2 beats are much lighter and lifted, it would sound more like this. For a compound meter etude, number 11, Opus 6, Etude 17. I think this is sometimes written in 4/4 time in triplets, but you could think of that as 12/8. Either way, it would be the same accentuation pattern. So it's really important to think of each measure in 4 beats and not to think of the 8th notes being their own individual beat. Modern performers tend to accent each of the main 4 beats equally, so it sounds something like this. However, if you apply the accentuation pattern of 12/8, the first beat would be the strongest, the second would be quite light, the third would be relatively strong, and the fourth would be light again. Soz number 2, opus 31, is in 2/4. So this would normally be played with, again, equal accentuation. Whereas the accentuation pattern from the 19th century would sound something like this. And finally, an example in 6/8 time. This is Soz number 3, opus 31, the same opus as the previous one. So 6/8 time, again, in a modern performance, this would be equally accented on each 8th note. But I think we can create a much more lilting and almost dance-like rhythm if we apply the 19th century accentuation. So I'll start with the modern accentuation. And now with the 19th century accentuation. So I hope I demonstrated that clearly, and in all of the examples, I think when you do apply 19th century accentuation, it actually brings out the musical structure, brings out the tensions and resolutions, the dissonances and the consonances. The rhythmic structure is clearer, and if it is a dance, it brings the dance-like character out even more.